Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my culture and identity and what makes me me. So I grew up in Flowermont, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, just north of Dallas, and it's kind of just like what you picture whenever you think of like a normal like suburban American town. It's quiet, friendly, and a suburb where everyone really knows everyone. Like you go into a store and you can see a bunch of people that you know. Growing up there really shaped who I am because of just the community, and it's not like a super unique place, but it just taught me a lot about like relationships and that kind of stuff. And when people talk about culture, they usually think about big traditions or like religious things, but honestly, that wasn't really my experience growing up. My family never did anything like super traditional or religious. We weren't the kind of family that went to church every Sunday or had like big like cultural like get-togethers, if that makes sense. Our main tradition was every year like my whole family and relatives and like extended family would get together for Christmas Eve, and the house would just be packed with like all my cousins, aunts, uncles, and there's food everywhere and just music playing and just a lot of laughter, and it's something that I look forward to every single year. And it wasn't really like fancy or anything, but it was just like what like made us like us. One memory that's always stuck with me is our family always participated in a white elephant gift exchange, which is just a silly little gift exchange between everyone, and everyone would draw a number and you would go pick a gift and you could steal the gift or whatever, and it usually gets all like hyped up and like rowdy in the living room, and it's just something that I'll always remember that we do. That's just something I carry with me because this idea that you don't need a bunch of traditions to have culture, and culture isn't something that you inherit, it's the way you live and like the way you connect with others, especially like your family. And for me, just like looking forward to like Christmas Eve every single year, or like getting together with my family on birthdays and stuff, is just something that was like my version of culture. Growing up in Flowermont just taught me like how things can just be so simple and to enjoy like the little things. And being here in El Paso, it's definitely made me miss my hometown a lot because it seems like this is like a big change for me. It's super busy, and even though it is like a smaller city in Texas, it's still like a lot bigger to me growing up in a small town. And I would say that my identity isn't about like one defining thing. It's a mix of everything that I've experienced in my life so far. Like it's shaped by my friends, my family, my hometown, and even just the months I've spent here. I think that's what makes me so proud of who I am, knowing that my story doesn't have to be dramatic or full of like big stereotypical cultural events. It's like everyday stuff that makes it meaningful. And at the end of the day, my culture and identity matters to me because they remind me where I started, and they keep me humble and grateful. And even if I don't have a long list of traditions or a strong cultural background, I still have a story that is like shapes me the way I am.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Duntley, and today I want to share a little bit about my culture and what it means to me. I came from a Mexican-American family, and even though my last name doesn't really sound Mexican, my culture plays a big role in my life. Growing up in El Paso, Texas, which is a border town right across from Juarez, I was surrounded by both Mexican-American traditions. That mix of cultures really shaped who I am and how I see the world. One of my favorite things about my culture is how much my family means to us. My family is super close. We celebrate everything together. Holidays are my favorite, especially Christmas, because that's when we all get together to make tamales. Every year it's a tradition in my family to spend the day cooking together, spreading the masa, wrapping tamales, and playing music in the background. It's something that connects us all and reminds us of our roots. Making tamales isn't just about food, it's about keeping our culture and family traditions alive. Faith is another big part of my culture. My family is super Catholic, and growing up, we always went to church on Sundays and celebrated holidays like Dia de Guadalupe. It's taught me to stay humble, grateful, and to give back whenever I can. Being an English speaker in a mostly Spanish-speaking community hasn't always been easy. Though there were times when people made comments like, "You don't even sound Mexican," when I was younger, that used to bother me because it felt like I didn't fit in. Like I was too American for some people and too Mexican for others. But as I got older, I realized that being both is actually something to be proud of. My culture isn't about how fluent my Spanish is. It's how I carry my roots, my family, and my traditions wherever I go. Another thing that defines our culture is our music and food. Whether it's mariachi at a wedding, cumbias at a quinceañera, or corridos at a family barbecue, music always brings us together. The same goes for our food, like tacos, enchiladas, pan dulce. Every dish has a story. Food is how we show love. My culture has taught about hard work and resilience too. My parents and grandparents work so hard to give me opportunities, and that motivates me every day, in school, in soccer, and in life. Whenever I'm tired or stressed, I think about them and how far they've come, and it reminds me that I'm capable of anything. To me, culture isn't just about traditions, it's about identity. It's about knowing where you come from, what you value, and the people who have helped shape you. My culture reminds me to stay connected to my roots and to be proud of who I am, and to carry that pride into everything I do.
Ava, and I'm going to talk about what it was like growing up in Austin, Texas, specifically how the cultures around me shaped my experience. Austin is one of those places where you can walk down the street and hear 3 or 4 different languages being spoken. It's a pretty diverse city, not just ethnically, but also culturally and linguistically too. There are many different neighborhoods that each feel like their own little world, and there's a bunch of different cultural norms, foods, and even languages. One example is in North Austin, you'll find a strong Asian community, especially Vietnamese, Korean, and Chinese. A lot of the signage there is bilingual and normal to walk into a store and hear a mix of English and another language being spoken fluently. That was always super cool to me, and seeing how language could create this sense of belonging for different groups. And in East Austin, there's a really deep Latin presence. Spanish is super common, but not just in homes, but in businesses as well. Growing up, I had a lot of friends who spoke Spanish at home and English at school. Some were fully bilingual, and then I remember being invited to friends' birthday parties and everything, with the music and the food, and hearing conversations that I didn't even understand. It made me realize how central language is to culture. One of the things that stands out to me about Austin is how it is a city where multilingualism is normalized. It's not just something that you hear at school, but it's everywhere, in restaurants, festivals, and farmers markets. It feels very natural to be around people and then hear them switching from language to language. That environment helped me develop a deeper appreciation for different cultures and made me more curious about learning about other languages. This is especially because I had multiple friends who grew up speaking separate languages fluently. One of my best friends, Val, grew up in Mexico and then came to the U.S. around 3rd grade. At home, she spoke only Spanish, but then when she came to school, she spoke strictly English. I grew up with many friends like that in Austin. So even though I grew up mainly speaking English, being surrounded by many different languages made me aware of how powerful language is. It's not just for communication, but also for identity and community. What's also interesting is that in Austin, certain parts of the city reflect different histories. Like the East Side has a really strong historical background rooted in both African American and Mexican American communities, and that influences the different kind of languages and expressions you hear there. You hear code switching a lot, which is switching between English and Spanish, or using regional slang that is unique to that area. So with that being said, moving to El Paso was still a big shift. Even though I was used to the diversity in Austin, the language dynamics here are still very different. In Austin, Spanish is one of the many languages spoken, but in El Paso, it's predominantly Spanish and English. So a lot of time in El Paso, I don't understand the conversations that are being said around me, and it makes me realize how language can really shape a place's identity, because in Austin, it's just very different. Overall, growing up in Austin exposed me to a really broad range of languages and cultures. It made me really open-minded, and it taught me that language isn't just something you learn in school, but it's also something that connects people and makes a place that place, especially in the different communities and cultures that you're surrounded